this.
I need like
So Jen, what's up? I can introduce you and say all these millions of things, but I think the crowd wants to hear it from you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, well, I am 28 and I've been in real estate for 3 years now, licensed for a little bit over 1 year. Prior to that, I was doing wholesale without a license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm...
So in case the feds are listening to this, you were practicing real estate with no real estate license.
Legally, you didn't need a license for wholesale. I think that's still the case. They might have changed it.
No, I don't believe you do. Not for wholesale.
Yeah, so we're good then.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
And I filed my taxes on all of my profits that year, so.
Like legit by the
Legit,
number?
yeah. I'm not trying to. I used to work at a bank before, so I saw how ugly it could get.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you would see like all the audits and how they would just take people's money away?
Accounts getting levied, and it's like, oh, I forgot to pay that year, and it's like, of course you did. You made a lot of money. Yeah. So I've seen that, and I avoid it.
That is crazy. So Jen, you've been licensed as a realtor for a year, and then you said you did wholesaling for 3 years. What is even wholesaling for the people that don't know what wholesaling is?
It's basically being the middleman for a distressed property. Say, for example, you got a divorce and you and your ex, you guys don't want to talk, you guys want to sell the house, but you guys can't stand each other.
Right.
You come to me and you're like, Jen, hey, just take this. I don't want to list it. I don't want to fix it. I don't just get rid of it, get me profit and get me out of it. So I basically get it under contract for you. That's just one of the many examples of how you can wholesale property. I get it under contract. I get it at a discount so I could sell it to an investor, somebody that'll pay below market value. Just to get that property off of that seller's hands. So
you pretty much get it for a cash price and then sell it to the cash investor?
Correct, yeah, for easier terms.
Mm-hmm. And then what, you just tax on like your commission on top?
Correct, yeah. We put a little fee as the middleman, and then we give it to a...
So you know what, in this podcast, we like to keep it real. We like to talk real numbers. Okay. On a wholesale, what is like the minimum that a wholesaler makes per deal?
The ideal flat fee that I've seen around other wholesale companies too is $10,000. Obviously that is negotiable. If it's a higher price point, you could go higher. But if you're really trying to get rid of a deal, I've dropped it down to where I barely made anything. But I was like, buy this burned down house, please.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's been the worst one where you're like, hey man, this is like one that I got into and I just couldn't get rid of it. I decided, hey, I'm gonna let it go. How much money did you make?
I maybe made like $1,200. It was a half burned down house in San Bernardino.
Jennifer's saying that I only made $1,200 for a lot of people watching this. So $1,200 is a lot of money. That's like 80 hours worth a week for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
True, yeah. But in real estate, it's a baby number. That was my first disposition though. That was like my first successful dispo in wholesale.
Right.
So I was like, I don't care if I make $500. Like
I just want to clean it.
Mm-hmm. So that
got it. Yeah.
Now,
on the flip side, what's been the best one that you've done?
Price
wise.
10,000. Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much like where your goal is 10K on each one.
Yeah, minimum. I feel like at this point, yeah.
And you're right. That's pretty like average for a lot of wholesalers. Is 10K is what they do. On the flip side, I've had a wholesaler actually make almost $100,000 on me on one deal.
I've met a wholesaler that made $100,000 on a deal. I wonder if it's the same guy.
Is it? I can say I don't mind. It's GG Homes. GG Homes in San Diego is pretty big. They probably do, I think, about 1,200 wholesales a year.
Yeah.
And it was on a duplex.
Oh.
So they sold it to me for $100,000 above what they got it for.
That's crazy.
But I still made $300,000 on that deal. So I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make your money. I made mine. We're all gonna go. It did take me much longer. I had to do all the work, and it's still worth it though.
Yeah, yeah.
So, tell us a little bit more about yourself though. Like, where is Jennifer from, first of all?
Jennifer's from Nevada. Very random state. But yeah, I was born in Nevada. I moved to California when I was 6, so I consider myself a Cali girl for sure now. I'm born and raised. I go back to my hometown and I'm like, I can't stand the weather here. Like,
what part?
It's called Elko. It's like middle of nowhere. Maybe like 2 hours south of Salt Lake City, Utah. So you kind of know. Got
it. So kind of close to St. George.
I guess. I don't really.
Okay.
I don't really know there. I hardly go over there, but that's where I'm from. So I was raised in California. Just traditional Hispanic family. I feel like it's a kind of a cliche, but I'm first generation. My parents were both from Zacatecas. So yeah, I went through school. I wasn't like a star student or anything, but I always knew that school was not my thing.
Were you like a rebel?
I wasn't a rebel either. I just did what I had to do, and then when I got out of school, I was like, well, now I'm gonna really try to figure it out. So I got little jobs here and there after high school. I never even tried to go to college. It was something that I was very ashamed of at first, but I was like, no, because if I stick to this, I'll make better money than doctors, you know, si Dios quiere. But yeah, so I was in the banking industry to where I was like, this is a big girl job. This is my career. Like, this is where I'm gonna make my money. And, you know, I was very proud of that job. But as I worked it, I was like, I don't like this.
So were you a teller? Were you in the back? What did you do at the bank?
I started as a teller. I was a teller for a couple of years, and then I got promoted to a personal banker. It's different titles in different banks.
Right.
I worked for 2 different banks. At Bank of America, I was a relationship manager.
Okay.
So I was like one of the bankers at the desk where you like came if you needed to open an account, close an account, you know, maintenance or whatever. That's
so were you looking at like all the businesses accounts and you started thinking, all right, this one gets paid, this one doesn't get paid?
Oh,
you
yeah.
had the back info to everybody. So
Yeah. I saw realtors account. I saw everything, and I think that's one of the other things too that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. Where I'd help teachers, I would help, you know, not to discredit anybody's profession, but when you look at things from a financial aspect,
yes.
you're like, oh, what's this real estate thing, or why is this escrow company depositing $50,000? Like, what is all this?
Right.
And I started to kind of get some insight, and it was through there, you know, and just connections as well. So a part that I kind of skipped is I've been in the service industry for maybe like 6 years now.
Okay.
It was always like a second job because I've just had the free time, you know. When I wasn't working my 9 to 5, I was like weekends off, and then maybe al desmadre, and then I was like, well, I didn't make no money and I don't feel good.
You spent all the money on the weekend, and then Monday you're back to square one.
Yeah, like I didn't. So, anyways, I've always had a second job as a server just to kind of keep some extra money on the side.
Right.
And through there, I've made a lot of great connections to where.
So, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's, you know, where I found like real estate mentors that.
So as a server though, how does one get paid?
Cash tips, preferably. I'm like, for everybody's listening, preferably cash.
So what I feel like part of what you saw though is that what you like as a server is there's no cap.
Correct.
You can make as much as you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the relationship between you being a server and doing real estate, wholesaling, there is no cap.
Yeah.
Like you get what you put into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So again, that's where I met a lot of connections too, where I wasn't gifted with the book smart, but I was gifted like, I don't want to say street smart tampoco, because I'm not hood.
You're a hustler. No, I don't know. I get that vibe a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
The
hood vibe. No.
I think it's the eyebrows. A lot of people they call me chola because of my eyebrows. But anyways,
I saw the Sharpie was missing when you walked in.
I'm dead. No, I was given the gift of gab, which I realized through serving, and then in the bank I was able to kind of utilize it with the professional side of things. So
right.
Yeah, people encouraged me.
That's great. So who pulled you though? Like how did that door all of a sudden open up? Like one day you were just busting a table and then
No, so it's so funny. I was working for a small marisco spot out of Colton.
Okay.
And the owner was like, we're doing an employee appreciation day. I rented a friend's house in Moreno Valley. Like he has a badass backyard and a pool. Y sabe que tanto. It was summer.
Like, it's mafioso.
I was like, I'll be
yeah.
there. No, so anyways, we're all partying and it's a badass house. It's in Moreno Valley, but like the owner invested a lot into the backyard. It looks like a resort.
Right.
And we're all like in this little, it has like a cave jacuzzi and we're all drinking. And I was like, what kind of drugs does this guy sell? Like just talking shit. And then a guy stands up, he's like, it's my house. I was like, oh, what do you do?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a real estate broker and appraiser. And I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. I've always been kind of curious, but I've never, I never even cared to learn what it took to start. And yeah, we chopped it up that evening. Like we had really good conversations and he's like, hit me up on a different day. And like, I could really get into it if you want. And I can tell you like courses that you need to take. And I was like, I'm down. So yeah, he put me up on game. His name's James Vega with Real Estate Mavens. I don't think he has a big brokerage. He's still practicing, but he kind of just does his own thing. It's worked for him. But yeah, because of him, I started taking the courses. He told me which ones to take. And I was kind of trying to balance that between the bank and serving and social life to where it took me a little too long to get my license.
Right.
But I got to a point in the bank where I wasn't happy and I was like, sorry, I speak a lot of Spanish.
No, this is a podcast is like that, so
okay.
métele lo que quieras.
Yeah, I'm like, estoy aguantando todo esto en el banco, pero ¿pa qué? You know, like I don't have any kids that I have to support. I don't have a big mortgage payment. Like I'm in a very fortunate situation to where I'm like, I'm working and I'm making good money at the bank, but for what? Like
Right.
If I'm gonna take a risk at any time. And again, thanks to him, he's like, how much money do you make at the time I was working at Mama Por Dios?
Okay.
He's like, how much do you make about 3 days? And I was like, X amount. He's like, does it pay your bills? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're gonna have to cut back some things, but quit the bank and do real estate full time. And I was like, so I quit the bank cold turkey during the pandemic because that's when it got really stressful. And then that's when he was like, well, in the meantime, link up with my friend Clay. His name's Clay. He's doing wholesale. See if that works out.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
So let me ask you this, because I think this is like an important part for a lot of people who are thinking about getting in the industry or have a license and they're too scared to make that jump from the 9 to 5 to getting into the unknown of how much money will I make. What was like your thought process of, I know that once you had your real estate license, you're like, I don't need to do all this shit or take all this from the bank. But what was it that really like struck that nerve that you're like, all right, I quit?
I
like, what was
ugly
that
cried.
day like?
I'm like, I ugly cried twice. Yeah, and I'm not easily broken. I'm like a really big hippie in the sense that like if somebody comes at me a certain way, I'm like, that has to do with you, has nothing to do with me, just, you know, for like the most part. But there was a couple of circumstances where my manager was not being pleasant or not really being the leader that I would have been in that circumstance. I would have led my team differently, where I feel like he kind of led me towards a failure and then smacked me on a hand for like missing something.
Right.
And I got so frustrated that I just lost my shit and I was like crying in the bathroom.
Right.
And that's when I was like, dude, for what? Like, this paycheck's nice, but I'm not gonna, like, no voy a estar aguantando esto again if I don't have to.
Right.
So that was it. And then just
And you quit, you cold turkey that day?
No, the way I quit is actually funny. I gave them my 2 weeks notice, and I put it for when I was coming back from Cancun.
You went on your vacation.
Oh, bet. Yeah, I was gonna use my vacation time. So I had my week vacation, and then I notified them. I said a week after I get back, those are my final 2 weeks. So I went to Cancun, and then I came back, and again, this was during COVID. And the market leader, she calls me, she's like, welcome back from vacation, blah, blah, blah. She's like, hey, we didn't receive your proof of a negative test. And I was like, she's like, you went out of the country, and, you know, protocol now when you come back from vacation is you have to take a test, and, like, we don't have, and this was before rapid COVID tests. And I was like, well, I don't know. And then she was like, well, you're going to have to take 2 weeks off. And I was like, well, these are my last 2 weeks, so. So I got my last 2 weeks off paid.
Not bad. Another 2 on top of the vacation.
Oh my gosh, I got so much free money. COVID, it was crazy.
So then that happens. You go and then walk me through like week 1 of like not having, or like that first month of not having that paycheck security. How was that?
It was learning wholesale. I was still working at Mama Por Dios. I think I had 2 jobs. I've been like notorious for having multiple jobs.
Right.
So sometimes I'll have like 2 restaurant jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't
So you're like a hustler. Like, you're not waiting for anything to happen. No matter what, you're going to make ends meet.
I'm going to make money.
Like, you're going to make it regardless, whether it's going to be on the wholesaling, whether it's on the side. So you always had a side hustle regardless if you had a full 9 to 5. So even when you were working as a teller or working at different banks or at the bank, you still had the side job?
Yeah, pretty much.
And
always.
where do you get that from? Like, where's that desire to keep on making more money? Like, you said you have no kids. You're not married.
No.
And you don't have a mortgage. So then what was it for? Like, what was the goal? Like, what's going on up here?
Oh man, this could get real hippie and cliche at the same time. Where
I'm all for it. That's what we're here for. Hey, if you guys are listening, guys, this is what it comes down to, because I believe that it's all up here on the mindset of what you want to do.
Yeah.
So let's hear it, Jen.
Yeah, there's no like life crippling debt. There's no urgent thing, but
like mom's not dying, dad's not dying.
Yeah, like they're cool. No. Yeah, I'm really lucky. I'm really fortunate, honestly. But the way that I see it is, I had a kind of like epiphany a couple of years ago where I don't know if you're familiar with the cosmos. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's an astrophysicist. Okay. So he basically puts into perspective how long the universe has existed, how long, to keep a very long, boring story short, he just puts it in perspective how unlikely this is, how likely, like, just intelligent life, blah, 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 all that, and how short of a time that my life is going to be in comparison to how long the Earth's even existed, in comparison to how long, like, this is so small and so insignificant in a scale of greater things. So to bring it back down, I think to myself, like, damn, like, how crazy is this that I'm here and I have these abilities? And not just that I won the lottery even further, to have been born here, to have all these opportunities. So I'm like, let me get after it as much as I can just while I'm here. And then eventually, maybe later on down the road, I'll have like a greater purpose and I'll help other people. But right now, it's kind of like a game. Like, all right, I get to do this. I'm here. Like, let me just go at it. Let me try it out.
You guys can't see, but I got the chills from this
Yeah.
because I truly believe the same thing.
Yeah.
You are here for a very short time,
Mm-hmm.
and most people take it for granted,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll say, "I'll do it later."
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a hurry right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you understand that from where you're at right now to, let's say, by the time that you hit 50, when you have the most energy, is now.
Mm-hmm.
When you're willing to do something, you got to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
But to dig in a little bit further, how do you said you were listening to, did you read this? Did you listen to it? Did you go to an event? How did you come to this epiphany?
It was the show, The Cosmos. Yeah, that's where I got Neil deGrasse Tyson from. And it's funny because my older brother, he always told me about it, but at the time I was like, I just cared about the boyfriend I had at the time and what I was going to wear to dinner and like insignificant shit.
Right.
So during the pandemic, I was like the most alone that I ever was, in the sense that like, I live in my studio. I would get home from work and I wouldn't want to visit family because I was around people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to expose them to anything because we didn't know. So I would literally just go for runs. I'd listen to podcasts. I did like a lot of self-development then, and just that time sitting alone and thinking, like deep thinking, that's when I was like, and I watched The Cosmos again, like this time not blocked by all the bullshit.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And then it just freaking, again, an epiphany, like exploded in my brain. And yeah.
How long ago was that?
2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during the next 3 years, a lot of people will have that and then they lose track, right?
Yeah.
Then they get back to, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got back to being able to be around your friends and family, the other voices, and listening to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep on the same mentality? Like, what do you do to make sure that the goal is there and that you keep aligned with what your visions were when you had that vision?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because 2021, it was a weird funk where like I was working in the service industry and I was seeing people still partying, people still going out and doing their thing and, you know, staying distracted and all of that. So I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of fall in sometimes where like I was like, let's whatever. We don't know what's going on. Let's just
party, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but 2022, I had a lot of like out of the blue experiences that I did not anticipate. I couldn't even plan if I wanted to.
Right.
That put me around a lot of people. I saw a lot of things where I was like, I don't want to go to the bar Wednesday night and have drinks. I don't like, it's so insignificant when there's so many greater things out there. Like, ya ni se me antoja. I don't want to break my focus. I don't want to. You ask any of my coworkers if like I'd go out in the middle of the week to go have a drink even after work. No, Jen's gone. I don't say bye to anybody at work because I'm like, I don't want to go nowhere. Don't ask me. Just because I know that I want to work back to those things that I was able to do 2022.
Right.
And I know that distractions in the middle of the week are not worth it. Like, there's such a greater picture to where I want to get back to that. So it's easier to stay focused, especially once you experience certain things.
I feel like the good thing is, from what you mentioned, is you did live that for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You did do your partying. You kind of got it out of your system. And you were able to see what it does and what it also does not do. Like, how does it not help you? So for somebody watching though, other than the Cosmos, what is something that you do day to day? And like you remember mentioned before we hopped on the live, what do you do? Like, what does your morning start off with, or what do you end the day with? What's that look like in the world of Jen?
It varies, but for the most part, I wake up. I do early. I'm not gonna BS and tell you that I'm up 5 a.m. on the dot every single day. Like, no, I do 5 a.m.s once or twice a week, but that's when I have like a full day of activities planned. But if I don't have a full day, my work day usually starts around 9, so I'll be at the gym around 7. Okay. So just depending on the brokerage that I'm with, we have 3 trainings throughout the week. We have Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays via Zoom. So that's when I try to pretty much be like out of the gym and ready to go. We start off with our Zooms, kind of just depending on whatever we're touching base on that day. And then from there, I'll either work from the office or I'll work from home, but it's just follow up. I kind of touch base on my Google Calendar. I'm trying to get better at that because that is something that was non-existent in my business up until about a year and a half ago.
Right, and the follow up I think is the major part.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. So I just go based off of my Google Calendar. You know what events I have planned for the day. If I have any in-person meetings, things like that. So I'll kind of just look through that. As mentioned between you and I prior,
Yeah.
I'm a big foodie. So my self-care of the day is like, I'm gonna pause and I'm gonna throw down real quick. I'm gonna treat myself to a really good meal after like a protein shake or something. So that's like a big...
The protein shakes just to like, I did good, but then I really make sure that I eat.
Yeah, like let me get some legitimate protein with some greens in, and that's like one of my favorite parts of the day, as cheesy as it sounds. But yeah, so I'll do that, and then my daily activities vary.
Right.
But it always includes follow-up. It always includes some sort of social media engagement. It always includes a workout, and yeah.
What about like what do you listen to though?
That's right. While I get ready, I'll listen to podcasts. Joe Rogan, again, religiously. And then the Morning Brew Daily, just because I like to stay on top of current events, of what's relevant, because, again, I've been around kind of high net worth people, and that's what they talk about. So I want to be able to maintain those conversations with people, so that's why I listen to that. But yeah, I don't meditate as much as I would like to. I do a lot of mindful thinking though, because again, it's just me. So I'll kind of just mentally, I try not to be distracted by like the music or whatever. And then I'll just really just be, as intentional as possible with my day.
Do you ever, go into the office in person? I know you mentioned Zoom, and I know that you do a lot of virtual, but do you ever go to the office, or are you ever at an actual location?
Once a week, yeah.
And what do you bump on the way there? What does Jen listen to?
Ooh,
are you bumping like some?
It varies. It varies. It varies on the mood of the day, but yeah, no, it's so. I think everybody says this.
Right.
But if I had to narrow it down, it would be like rap and hip hop, obviously. I listen to a little bit of Spanish music, reggaeton.
Okay. Old school or new school?
Again, that varies.
Depends on the mood?
Like, the other day was Chalino.
Oh, okay.
I was going to
Paris. Wait, hold on. That has nothing to do with reggaeton, right? But
no, were you talking like, I thought you meant like in general.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, old school reggaeton every once in a while, but like if I'm choosing like Spanish music, I think it's because, again, my parents are both from Mexico, so like when we would drive from my hometown to California, all we would do is listen to their music. So
your parents don't let you choose the music. Yeah. If you're first generation, no way. Yeah,
exactly. So I'll still like listen to some throwbacks to my childhood, what my parents used to listen to, but I'll listen to modern day stuff. You know, Fuerza Regida, Grupo Firme, A Huevo. Just kidding. You know that.
Tell me you worked at a marisco spot without telling me you worked at a marisco.
I'm gonna cry. Literally. Guess what you want, and I'll give you $1. $5, actually. Yes.
So, now that you look back, right? Like, if you were to sit back right now and you were to give the 3 biggest tips to somebody who's barely getting into the trade or starting off, what would be your advice?
Get a mentor, number 1. Number 2, be patient. Just because it can be a long process. I mean, I think that's a variable for the brokerage that you join, but as far as I'm concerned, first transactions can take a while. 3 would be just be a sponge, constantly educate yourself, because the circumstances, the transactions, the variables of real estate are never ending, and you're never gonna stop learning. So just be a sponge and like learn the principles and kind of just go off of that, but also don't get discouraged when a wrench is thrown at you, because it's gonna happen. It's going.
So you had a couple of nightmares
already? Oh my god, I could cry just thinking about one.
Let's hear about it. This is what it's about. You know what? We still got a couple minutes left, so.
Yeah.
So that's a nightmare one, because everybody talks about the money that you make, how badass it is, the lifestyle. But nobody ever really talks about the bullshit that you live in the real estate world.
Yeah, I can be positive about it and say it didn't waste too much of my time. It was about a month.
Just a month?
Relative to how much time he could have wasted, yeah, it wasn't that much. But so this was March of last year that I was because I don't like cold calling. I prefer door knocking. I'm more face to face type of person. Right. Yeah, so I went door knocking businesses, and just in my area, I kind of took some a sales activity that I learned from the bank, where we just printed out flyers, got like either goodie bags, some kind of snack or something that was
something to give to them, right?
Yeah, and I just go up to them and be like, hey, can I put these flyers and, you know, these candies in your break room for your employees? Like, if they want to take a flyer, they can take a flyer, but the candies they could have. So I did that to just like maybe 10 businesses around where I live. Right. And the next day I was at an open house and I got a phone call, and it was this guy, and he was like, oye, mi hermana vio tu información en su trabajo y yo he querido vender mi casa, pero no conozco a nadie, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, this is the situation, this, and that. And I was like, oh shit, it worked.
Yeah. Surprisingly, it worked, right?
I was like, I put in some work and I got a lead. That's crazy. No, so then I was like, well, when would you like for me to come see the house? Because the way that he was talking to me, it was one of those situations. His wife left him. It was just the most tragic thing. And he's like, I just want to get out of this house. I was renting it, right. And they were squatting. Y sabe que tanto, just like worst case
like all the experiences that you can live as a landlord.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, I just got them out and I want to sell this house ASAP. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So after my open house, I went to go walk the property with my lender that she had joined me. And, you know, we kind of talked some numbers, but then the next day, you know, we went over everything and I was like, well, if you want to profit, you know, just the standard listing appointment, you know, but you know that conversation. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay, all right. It almost seemed like too good to be true.
Yeah, too
like,
easy. This was a walk in the park.
Yeah. And dude, every time I think about it, I'm being mindful of like what I should and shouldn't. I mean, I'm not giving you guys his name or address or anything.
No, you can say whatever. Nobody knows what this transaction was, who it was.
Okay, so basically, like the more that we're talking, the more like the first time I walked it was pretty messed up because the tenants did mess up the property a little bit. So then the second time I went back, he'd walk me through the house and be like, hey, remember there was a hole here? Like, I patched this hole up. It looks good, huh? You can't even tell. I was like, no, it looks... He's like, yeah, I used to help this guy hide money in the walls. And I was like, why are you...
telling me
Yeah, like, you don't have to tell me that, sir. That's already too much info. Like, I don't need to know all that. Right. And me agarró confianza, pues, to where I was like, okay, I appreciate that. But he started telling me some shit where I'm like, sir, please do not.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to... I don't want to know that.
Because I got to disclose certain info when I do disclosures. Like,
that's crazy. Yeah, so there was that, but it was an emotional roller coaster to one day he felt like, yeah, this is the best plan. This is going to get our house sold. Like, and then the next day he's like, ¿sabes qué? Estaba hablando con esta persona, me estaba diciendo esto. And I'm like, you can't let people whisper in your ear. Right. You have this goal. You express this goal to me, and I'm making it my goal to get us there. Like, I'm going based on what you're telling me. And he just became very hesitant. Long story short, we get an all-cash offer, 10-day close. And he's like, well, he's like, okay, how am I going to get the money? And I was like, we're going to wire it to your bank account. I don't have a bank account. I'm like, well, let's start opening one. Yeah. And I'm just to the point where I'm like, I'll go to the bank with you. You need 2 forms of ID. Like, I know exactly what you need because I used to work at a bank. And then I was like, start at the place where you have your mortgage because they clearly already have your information. You already have some sort of account open with them. It should be easy.
Right.
Y luego resulta que there was fraud on his account and that he owed $8,000 in New York and $3,000 in Miami. And I was like, and he's like, ¿sabes que no quiero abrir cuenta? He was a Spanish speaker, obviously. And he's like, just give it to me cash. And I'm like,
does it $150,000 in cash? Here.
No, and it wasn't even. It was almost like $300,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and
so he wanted you to walk out with a bag.
Yeah, and I was like, I know it's not impossible, but I know that it's gonna be a process. I was like, banks don't just have this money on hand. Where they're gonna have to order it, you're gonna have to sign some sort of like, not a disclosure, a release form of liability. If you get robbed in that parking lot, not the bank's problem. You decided to pull this money out. He didn't like what I was telling him. So he wants to cancel, and I'm like, chill. It's like 2 days before we're supposed to close escrow.
Right.
Anyways, long story short, he goes into escrow and he cancels everything.
What? So after all that work, you guys open escrow and he says no because he's scared that what is he gonna do with the money?
Yeah, he like did it, and then he was worried about paying taxes on the money, and he got to kind of like a panic state where like I couldn't talk him out of it. Like he had concerns and I had answers to those
Right.
concerns where I'm just like, I know, but there's this, there's X, Y, and Z. Don't worry about it. There's a solution for that. But he was real like, I don't know my money and this and taxes and I don't know my wife and what if she takes half, and I'm like, relax. Yeah. So he canceled.
So did that one like knock you to where you're like, dude, I don't want to like do this anymore? Like, what happens next within Jen's head, right? Like, what happened with you and like you're like, hey, this is what's going on.
If I'm telling you exactly how it is,
yeah, be straight up.
Jen pulled up to her house and Jen ugly cried in the driveway for about 15 minutes. And then my best friend came through and she said, we're gonna go get pedicures. We're gonna relax a little bit. And thankfully, one of my mentors, he's not in real estate. I don't know if you know of him. He's a pretty big figure in Riverside. His name's Mario Arizon.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, so he, again, just by a stroke of luck, I was able to meet him at a networking event. And because we're both based out of Riverside, I started plugging in with him and just going to his meetings. And I run into him at the gym all the time. And he's like a person that's constantly pouring into, like keeps me motivated. That if I'm low and I run into him at the gym, I'm like, all right, like let's go. Yeah.
I need a recharge. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Reset button.
So at the time I was going to his meetings a lot to where like one of the things that he says is don't quit, recommit. To where I'm like, all right, Jen, this fucking sucks, but recommit. Like we're gonna go back at it. So I dwelled in it for maybe like a day or two.
Right.
And then I let it go, and then I just kept it pushing. Cause imagine that was a month's worth of work, and that was from door knocking once.
Right.
In that neighborhood.
Right.
So I'm like, whatever.
I got it.
Yeah. Whew, that was stressful. I don't know if you saw me like tense up.
So Jen, like that same story, how many do you believe you had already?
Listings.
Or just in general when it comes to real estate?
Like how many bad
Yeah.
transactions? Oh, that was like my first and last really bad one. But again, mind you, I haven't had too many transactions. I would consider myself still fairly new. I mean, a little bit over, I should have more. But anyways, I haven't had any bad ones.
Do you believe that's going to be the only one?
No.
There's going to be more coming.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing that will change is how you react to those situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is Jennifer's goals for 2024?
At least 10 transactions.
Okay.
So that may not sound like much to a person who does that in a month, but
10 transactions is good.
That's
That's
like a
good
year?
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
yeah, so I would say 10, just because I want to keep it realistic with myself from going to 2 closed listings my first year. That's what I got. I had listings, but there's so much trial and error my first year that if we talked about it, we'd be here all day.
Right.
But I had friends that threw me a bone and they were like, list this for me. And like, for example, one is this acquaintance of mine that has a vacation home in Big Bear in like one of the freaking prestigious areas, like the Papoose Bay Estates. Badass cabin, 1.4.
By the lake.
Yeah, literally, has 2 docks. And he was like, throw it on the market, let's see if it sells for this much. And then the week after is when they have that massive blizzard. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life be lifing.
Life be lifing. But I don't take it personal because I'm like, I got a $1 million listing in my portfolio. I had somebody that entrusted me with one of their assets. And to me, that's like fuel that keeps me going.
Correct.
Yeah, like I'm
so
not.
So you've already tasted it. You know you can do it. You know you got it. So guys, there's going to be a second episode to this because me and Jen can go at it super hardcore. More about what she's got going on. Stay tuned. Jennifer, anything you want to close this with?
No, just thanks for listening.
Awesome.
For having me here.
Till next time, guys.
Cool beans. How long is your goal for the